Hello, my name is Casey Merritt. This is my speech about video games as an art form, which they are. Um, I intend this speech to be more uh, put together than last one. Um, and also just a quick note to everyone: I could not get an audience because of where my life is very like their schedules are very loose, if you can say. So it's hard to get them on Zoom. So I did get an audience this time. I'm gonna share the audience really fast because why not? I decided to go a little more creative with my audience. But truthfully, they're still here, honestly. That is these guys right here. If I can show you them, not doing. There you go. There's Doom guy from Doom. Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat, the Reaper from Overwatch, and the Oni from Dead by Daylight. I decided to go a little more creative for this for my audience here, and they will be behind me all the time. It will be behind me, or not behind me, behind the computer. If I can actually do something. This, if I can, over here. It'll be to my right here, my audience, and I will try to look at them as sort of an audience. You know what I mean? When I can, but anyways, this is my speech, and I wanted to talk about something that I'm very passionate about: video games as an art form. Now, to me, video games are an art form. This is just, to me, it's just a fact. There's no discussion about this. Back in the early days, you could call it not an art form because it was just mainly they were very simple back in the day. They were just they were simple games. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Mario, for example. Mario was a very simple game. It was just power want cakes and go save princesses and castles and everything. But honestly, it was very simple. So I guess you can call it an art form, but I still consider art, even though it's a very specific form of art. Like, to me, looking at something like Mario is no different from looking at movies like silent films, for example. It's a starting point. It's a starting point from where it is, and you move on to something else. Um, but over time, video games became much more, complex. You know what I mean? They went from being that to being full cinematic games that feel like any movie out there, or sometimes even better than movies because you can get a lot more in games. And I want to do a speech to highlight something that I do feel like deserves more, attention, more credit for as an art form, as a storytelling medium, and because it has been the past few years. Um, I just want people to open up to their minds to this idea. Not that I'm not saying that is all you guys are not no like you guys are clearly they sound guilty. Just want people to see that the art video games can be an art form just like anything else. And so I want to see if there's a few things here that really I really feel passionate. My first I'll bring up an example of my first points or first games that I feel really does make you feel like is this like wow this is an art form, this is, you know what I'm talking about. And that game actually would in fact be Skyrim. Actually, one of my favorite games ever made personally. It is why I consider it an art form is that it kind of tells it tells like a story about this like Christ like figure um coming back to this world of Skyrim and defeating these giant dragons who are essentially the like the demons of the school essentially. And why it's an art form because the story may be pretty simplistic for the most part, and your character has little to no depth. I feel like it's an art form because it does bring something that I really like, and because it's a fan, the Skyrim is fantasy, and it brings my love in fantasy. It brings mythology, and has a mythology like if they sit down for like 10 minutes, tell you about this vast history of this universe. No, actually doesn't tell you that much about the history of the universe. Only about this certain story, which in the Elder Scrolls series, Elder Scrolls called Elder Scrolls. It's like 5 games right now currently, maybe 6, 7, maybe in the future. But like in this game, truthfully, there's a vast open world that you can explore honestly, and it has like its own mythology. It is like you can literally just go through the entire game killing enemies, and then like randomly one day you'll decide to buy a house, marry a wife, and read like 15 different literal books in game that explain characters, explain history, mythology of this universe, all these different things about this universe. that it makes me feel like this world is real in a way. It makes me feel like it gives me that same goosebumps, I can say, as something like Lord of the Rings, for example. Heck, I even think Lord of the Rings or Skyrim has Elder Scrolls has a deeper mythology than Lord of the Rings, and it makes me feel like this because this world is real. It tells me a story that I can get behind, that I love. The characters may not be like super complex, but in terms of world building, this game does it amazingly. Like there are different monsters and creatures you can discover. You can make yourself more powerful, which is a gameplay thing. But still, you can learn about mythology and history of this world. You can just live a normal life essentially by marrying somebody or having kids or having your own house. It's like there's so many things you can do in the game. It makes you feel like this is this is our form. It makes you feel like that, personally. And it also sort of represents what I feel like games have become recently. It perfectly represents what games have become, and it's become a art form that can make you feel immersed into this world that the developers have created for it. Honestly, and that's why one of the reasons I consider art form. I'll be another example of Mortal Kombat. Oddly enough, now it is kind of just a crazy, deranged bloodfest, truthfully, but is more to it. Again, once again, there's a vast mythology behind Mortal Kombat. It is a mythology that spans in the universe like thousands of years, with gods and demons and angels and other older gods, mortal human beings, emperor warlords from different realms, and it made one of the things also I really like about it is it made me care about the characters. Again, adding to why I think this universe is art form is that it makes me care about characters. This whole universe makes me care about characters. Like I can remember almost every character, every main character. Johnny Cage, you got Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, um, uh, Sonya Blade, Jax, Shao Kahn, Raiden, whatever. And to me, I care about all these characters, at least the good characters. I care about all the characters. So what happens to them, it affects me because that's another thing why I think it's an art form. Because if you get me to care about your characters, to me, it's an art form. To me, it's an art form. Because you got me to care about your characters enough and care about your story enough to keep playing even through some of the worst games. Like Mortal Kombat Special Forces, which is considered the worst game of Mortal Kombat history and one of the worst games of all time. But it got me to play it because I love the character so much. And to me, it's art. And you really care about the characters. I'll care about your story. I'll care about your universe. You know what I mean? And it's an art form because not again mythology, but also me caring about characters. To me, art is something like that. And they all have personalities. Hell, even their gameplay affects their personalities. Like you see someone like Johnny Cage, or not Johnny Cage, yeah, Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage, who essentially his gameplays, the way he fights is kind of cocky in a way. It feels like he's too good for this role, and it's like that's who he is. You find anything about someone like Shao Kahn, who is, his gameplay is very aggressive. Very very in your face constantly, but it is personality because it makes sense because his personality. He's already an aggressive person. So it's like even gameplay in many games can affect the way you view their personalities, and that's why I like it also because it makes you think about just their how does their gameplay affect them as people? It does because the fighting game, their gameplay can really can really show you the personalities by them fighting, and that's what Mortal Kombat does. That's why another reason I consider art form. And this goes for not just this for any game, honestly. Hell, even games like Doom with Doom guy right there. Um, he's a very aggressive person. The gameplay reflects that. The gameplay is overly aggressive and constant. So what makes it because his character is like always angry and pissed off about something. And even some other games can affect the way you can do gameplay. You can see how people react, or at least how people act. Even games like Life is Strange and Walking Dead, the two video games. Um, like for example, to take down about Walking Dead, for example. Um, to me, another thing that makes video games hard is actually something that I think Walking Dead, the video game, the Telltale series, does perfectly to me. And that is, it can make you feel for these characters. Like, when I first played Walking Dead, the Telltale series, I actually cried when one of the main characters, spoilers, dies named Lee. I actually cried. And to me, that says that something like a video game is doing its job. If I can cry about a character who is fictional, dying right in front of me, to me, that says this series is doing something right. Is doing something right to me. If I can literally tear up over a fictional character being killed by a zombie infection, the game's doing something right. Like, and that's why I consider art. That's why I consider art form, honestly, because it really does. Like, it because many people say it's not. It's not art. I don't agree with that, but they bring up mainly that. I actually don't know. I haven't looked at many people that do that, but they say that kind of stuff, but it makes me confused. Because they, I mean, clearly some people just haven't played movies. They don't know that much, you know. There's plus like I'll say one last thing because I need to wrap this up eventually. It's 10 minutes long now. But to me, video games are an art form, and like when people say it's a lesser art or it's sub art or some crap like that, to me, there's no sub art. There's no low art or trash art or any of that crap. To me, it's just art, and video games are art. It's just more interactive, and because it's more interactive, it actually can provide more. It can actually try to be sometimes better than things like movies or video games because you have control over the play. You can choose what to do in these games, so it makes it sometimes even better than those arts, which is not common. You only hear people say, but I do generally feel like that's actually a thing where it can make you, do more. And sure, there are games made for kids, sure, but there's still art to me. It's still art. Hell, even Mario games still art to me because it's just a fun time. You know what I mean? Not all art has to be a super complex storytelling. It's supposed to be fun. Like even for example, series like Halo, for example. Which again got me to care about the characters, had a mythology spanning back thousands of years. You know what I mean? Like this is a thousands of years and the series started out as very simple. It's a super soldier fighting aliens. That's what it started out as. But it got me to care because the world was so interesting. The characters were interesting. Even the character Master Chief, which is such. If you look at him from the standpoint, he looks so bland and boring, but he's so interesting when you actually get to know why this guy the way he is. I mean, it's like it's not that's art to me. That is art to me. If you can get to care about the characters, or care about the mythology, or want to learn more about the mythology of the universe that it inhabits, that's art to me. That's why, like, when I look up Lord of the Rings videos on YouTube, just listening for, wow, that's like that's art because I love the Lord of the Rings fan. I love to hear about that mythology. Same thing for video games. If you got me to care about the mythology and to care about the characters and all that stuff, all those juicy details, got me to care about your game. That's what I'm trying to say, man. That's what I'm trying to say. Video games aren't art form. They make care. To me, art it just makes me care about things. And video games do that in spades. And this video's gone on for way too long. And I'm almost to 79 minutes. But I'm sorry, I need to do longer because damn, I want this is something I'm really passionate about. It's really sorry I've been MAA recently, just saying. Anyways, I had a hectic week, and it's probably the best I can do right now because my week has been so. I had little time for school. I have little time for stuff like this, unfortunately. I'm really trying right now. And it's just, video games, like I said, they need to be treated with more respect because we've gone years of people saying that they're not an art form or they're trash, garbage, or whatever, or they're the cause of all our violence, in society. It's like that's not true. That wasn't true for movies. That wasn't true for books, comics, music. That was true for nothing. So stop trying to push that narrative, all right? They're an art form, and they make you care. So that's what I feel about video games. True art form, in my opinion. This is a fact. There's no debate, all right? They don't cause violence. Not less from art. Not only made for kids. There are some games that are violent. Yeah, show something like Gears of War to a freaking kid, where it's like it's not. They are an art form to me. That's fact. That's a fact to me, honestly. I guess it all comes down to perspective. I guess I really do think because if you didn't grow up with games that much, you're probably not gonna know a whole lot about games that much. So I understand. But to me, doesn't come from a guy who loves video games. I mean, look, you see up there, have all games right there. There's like Xbox games right there. There's Wii games, PlayStation games over here. You know, game games over there too. I love games. I love video games. And they've really transformed our art form. Now, if I want to talk about any more, any further than this, it'll take me 3 hours. I've limited time here, but this is me. It's an art form. Yeah. Thank you for listening to my rambling speech about video games. It's gone way too long. I apologize. I just so much I want to talk about, and I have very little time. But thank you for listening to me. That's my speech. Everyone, have a good day because you all really deserve to have one. Thank you for listening, and